Spurge here, and in this video we are going to break down the new Schuberth E2 Adventure Modular Helmet. So the big change here is that this is a updated helmet over the E2, and it is worlds different than the E1. I have an E1 here, but really, as we're thinking about this, the E2 has more in common with the new C5, whereas the E1 was based on the C3. So we really didn't see a change in the E series of modular adventure helmets to include the C4. Schuberth just didn't do it. So this is really going to be a big leap forward. So if you've seen the C5 video, that's where most of the DNA for this helmet comes from. Now, the price on this is about $200 more than what the E1 was. The E1 was $600. This is going to be starting around the $800 price point, but there's a lot going on here. So before we judge it right off the get-go for its price, I do want to get into comparing this with talking about some of the changes that the C5 and now the E2 have, and then also really this is leaps and bounds different than what the E1 helmet was. So before we jump into anything else, let me just pull the E1 up. You can see the two side by side, and it really is a completely different helmet for a lot of different reasons. The chin bar has been redesigned. The overall shell has been a bit restructured. The peak is completely new. The vent system is new. It's more aerodynamic. It's got an integrated comm system to include the newest version of Schuberth's SC2 system. There's just so much going on here that to really compare it to the E1 isn't fair. And it's really just such a groundbreaking redesign. So if you were someone that looked at the E1, you didn't like it, you'd liked Schuberth in the past, when we saw the C5 come out, we really talked about the C5 being a return to form for Schuberth. We weren't really happy with the C3, really weren't happy with the C4. Schuberth knew that, and when they came out with the C5, it was back to what original Schuberth owners liked so much about their helmets, and now we're seeing that with the E2. So I'm going to take the E1 off the table because it really isn't going to be the comparison that we're talking about in this video. This is really a ground up new helmet based on the chassis that we saw with the introduction of the C5. That out of the way, the shell on this is a DFP fiberglass shell with basalt reinforcement. Really what that means with the DFP is it allows Schuberth to, fine layer and control fiber placement. So it allows them to create more bulk, if you will, for the saving the use of a better term, in areas where it needs better impact protection, while thinning out areas it needs less. It's got basalt reinforcement everywhere except for the chin bar on this, and overall it's a very technical shell. Two shell sizes, extra small to large for the first shell size, and then extra large up to 3XL for the second shell size with 5 different EPS liners. Only DOT rated. So if I had to throw a critique out right out of the gate, is not going to get an ECE or a Snell rating in America. Just a fun note there. Now, from a weight perspective, this did gain weight over the C5. So this is 4 pounds 5 ounces in a medium when we threw it on the scale, which is almost a half a pound heavier than the C5. So when we're looking at this, even compared to the C5, this is going to be a heavier helmet. Now, some of that weight is because the speakers and the antenna for the comm system are already included in the shell. You can take that out if you wanted to not use it with a comm system and save yourself a little bit of weight. But keep in mind that that weight does include the fact that this helmet ships with the speakers and the antenna ready for the plug-and-play system and the simplicity of the SC2. Now, is an intermediate oval head shape with this. So if we're talking about head shape, a little bit longer front to back, a little bit narrow on the side of the head, this is going to work really well for the majority of riders in the American market. If you're not sure what we're talking about for internal fitment of helmets, you can always check out our How to Size and Buy Motorcycle Helmets Guide. The one thing that Schuberth differentiates is that with their liner system, there is some padding tweaks you can make to give you a little bit more of a round fit. So if you're somebody that's not intermediate oval, you are someone that has a little bit more of a round shape to your head, there are some tweaks with the inside of the liner system on this that will allow you to fine-tune the fitment and make it a bit of a rounder helmet if that's something that you need. We'll get to that a little bit more as we get into the interior of this particular helmet. Now, Schuberth, as always, is claiming roughly 85 decibels of noise inside the helmet. That being said, road noise is so subjective when we're talking about helmets. One of the top questions we get, how quiet is this helmet? Quiet for me is not going to be the same as quiet for you. Regardless of what helmet manufacturers are claiming, I would always recommend riding with earplugs. Another question that we get is, oh, if you're riding with earplugs, you can't hear your comm system. Actually, the contrary. I think the number one way I recommend using a comm system is put earplugs in and then put those speakers right up against. Earplugs drown out the erroneous road noise, and those speakers, because they're sitting right there, you can hear them really well. So I actually think that earplugs really benefit your ride, regardless of whether you're using a comm system or not. So just kind of breaking down some of the key changes that we're going to see with this particular helmet. Let's start with the chin bar on this. So the big change we saw with the modular version of the C5 was the locking mechanism on the chin bar. So if you're looking at this helmet, you are someone that wants an adventure lid, you want a modular helmet, and you also want a street helmet. And really the only other helmet out there that gives you that would be the Scorpion AT960, which is a bit more budget friendly. So what Schuberth is doing with the E2 is they're trying to offer up a premium option for riders that want that kind of diverse functionality. So you can use this as a modular helmet, you can use it as an adventure lid with the peak, and you can take the peak off, you can add the pods on, and you can use it as a helmet that looks strikingly familiar to the C5. Now, we talk about the locking mechanism. There's a little red tab over here. This actually locks the chin bar in the upright position, and really what this allows you to do is, in the past we've said that modular helmets are not designed to be used in a 3/4 position whilst actually riding. It's more about being able to lift up the chin bar and grab a drink while you're at a gas station or talk to your riding buddies. But what a lot of manufacturers are gravitating towards, and we're seeing Schuberth do this as well, is you can now lock the chin bar, and when you're doing just low speed around town riding, you can use this in the 3/4 position. Drop down sun visor is still included on this particular helmet. And then the other change you're going to see here, we'll unlock this and we'll bring it down, is that the peak on this, you can now adjust. There's 2 little locks on each side, and there's 3 different positions for how high or how low you want that adventure peak to go. And then if you want to take the peak off completely, you have these little twist off pods. You can twist this off, peak comes off, and then there's replacement pods that sit inside the box. You can pop those in. The only note there, if I had to throw a critique out, is they don't really lock into place. They just kind of pop. You don't even really hear a snap. Now, we talked to Schuberth about this. We asked them, has there been any concerns with these popping off? They said no, they work really well. We've had no issues with testing. We haven't had any issues. It's just one of those notes where when you push them in, you have to line it up perfectly and don't expect it to push in and twist. You just pop them on and you're good to go. The other note with the peak on this, not the fine-tuned ventilated peak that we've seen from some other manufacturers, and really the note there is that depending on the position you're riding in, you can still get a bit of lift from the peak at highway speed. So would probably recommend, if you are using this on the highway, remove the peak, maybe throw it in a tank bag, and then when you get to some areas off-road or to some fire roads, you can put the peak back on at that point once speeds slow down a little bit. Larger vent up top. The vent is a bit redesigned than the C5 is, just a bit of a redesign to get it up a little bit further in from the peak. The other note here too is that the face shield does come with the pin lock insert installed. Just a note that from a detents perspective, there's not a lot of positions for the detents with this particular one, but the pin lock is installed when you get it. So just keep that in mind. It is pin lock ready and there is a pin lock installed. Now the really cool feature, and we saw this with the introduction to the C5, if you are riding and you have your face shield closed and you go to open your chin bar, you open it up and you close it, face shield is still closed. If you are riding and you've got the face shield open and you open it up and you close it, face shield stays up. So it's learning technology. In the age of artificial intelligence, the helmet knows via no technology, other than mechanical technology, that it is in the open position or the closed position, regardless of where you start. So it remembers, and it's just kind of cool. So nothing overly exciting there, but that is a neat little feature that we saw introduced in the C5, and that carries through here as well. Slider for the drop-down face shield is over on the left-hand side. The note here is that this is your little pod that pops off if you want to add in the Schuberth proprietary system. I was going to say Sena, but it is made by Sena. It is the Schuberth SC2, and if you're trying to compare this, it's got the same features as something like the Sena 50S or 50R. And really what this allows you to do is you get Bluetooth, you get mesh, it's all the top of the line features from a comm system, but this is plug and play. So you can plug it in, you've already got the speakers in there, you've already got the antenna system, battery, port for that out back. And then if you want to add the boom mic, because you want to actually use it as two-way communication, not just listening to music, you can add the boom mic in as well. And that's where we were talking earlier about the weight for this, because some of those features or some of those components are already added into the actual helmet. You get the top brow vent like we talked about. You also get a redesigned chin vent. You get two vents there. Ventilation works really well. Top one helps with any kind of just airflow inside to the face shield, and then the larger vent down below. But really a solid amount of venting with this particular helmet. Now, where we get to the inside on this, and where Schuberth is counting on a lot of that wind noise reduction, is the sophistication for their inside liner. You can see that chin curtain, or the neck roll rather, works really well around the back, working its way to the chin curtain, and that chin curtain integrates into almost like a two-part design as it works down with the chin bar. Now to show this, I am going to open it up just because it's a little bit easier to get into. So as with all Schuberths, you are going to get the ratchet strap here. Take it or leave it. Some people like a double D ring. Some people love the simplicity of a ratchet strap, but this is going to be Schuberth's ratchet strap design. The other note, and we see this with pretty much all the Schuberth helmets, it gets this large warning tag. So I would probably recommend cutting this off if I owned this helmet, but I believe this is a European regulation, a CE regulation, so you get this big tag hanging down. So I'm not going to tell you what to do. This is kind of like if you buy a mattress and you remove the tag once it's in your own home. You know, can the law really come and find you? Either way, I would cut that off. The other thing to note is the way that the chin bar kind of locks into place is a bit of a new mechanism. You can see it when we have this opened up, but that is you know, again, straight from what we saw with the C5. So let's take a look at the interior, and if I'm remembering correctly from my my C5 days, there is just a bit of a little trick here, only in the fact that you have to kind of loop the ratchets through the actual cheek pads. So there's a little sleeve there, and you have to get this through. There's then this other strap that kind of loops on. It's not easy to just take this on and off. So just a note that if you're somebody that likes to clean your cheek pads and clean your helmet liner regularly, you can see all these extra straps that are worked into the Schuberth that are not necessarily worked into an average helmet. So a multiple part design for this. So the chin, or the neck roll, comes out separately. You then have these straps, and you can kind of see there's a way to work all this through if you want to, but I'm just going to kind of actually, you know what, I'll do it for you people. You can see there's Velcro that holds it around the straps, so you wrap the Velcro around the straps. It is I think the nice way to put it would be saying it's a sophisticated system. It is a complicated system. So this is, you know, like I said earlier, if you are someone that likes to take your cheek pads and your inside liner in and out regularly, this is definitely going to be one that you would probably reconsider doing that. We talked earlier about some of the adjustments you can see with the inside liner. You can see you've got an extra little adjustment pad on the back here, and this is what we were talking about. You can fine-tune the adjustments for the fits for the helmet with the actual liner system that you're seeing inside. And then, again, multiple pieces for how this all comes out. You can see the removable pads, but multiple pieces. I got a whole little pile of stuff going over on the right-hand side for how this liner system comes together. Same thing with the top liner, people. It's not just one top liner that you pull out the way that you would with another helmet. It's almost comical in how many different pieces that you pull out for this. But what this means for you, all of that complication does allow you to fine-tune the fit. And you'll notice each piece has the size on it for what the size is if you want to go ahead and start changing sizes. It's got the group number, the size, so you can truly fine-tune the fitment using all the different variations of interior liner that you can, you know, pick from Schuberth. It's kind of like, I don't know, what was the collect them and trade them with your friends, like a Pokemon card game or some stupid stuff? You can collect these, try them in different ways, pass them back and forth to your friends. Speakers are already in there. We talked about that earlier. Speakers are already included. You got the channel cutouts for the vents. Would have been interesting to see, maybe a little bit more of a deep channeled cutout. I think, if I'm picking a critique with the vent system, the redesigned chin vent I really liked. Maybe some deeper channel cutouts just to help really push that airflow through a little bit better. But again, what Schuberth is going for is all about that noise reduction. Their claim to fame are the lower decibels. So, who am I to say? I am not an engineer, but I think that from an airflow perspective, just getting some deeper channel cutouts usually helps with allowing that air to push through from the front to the back, in my opinion. So that is what we are looking at for the E2. Now, again, really, if you're looking at this helmet, you want premium, you want a modular helmet, an adventure helmet, and a street helmet all in one. And that is what Schuberth is offering you. And really the only other person that we're seeing do this is the AT950 from Scorpion, like I mentioned earlier. So if you want to know more about this helmet, maybe you want to check out what other riders are saying about how this E2 compares to their E1, you can check out all the reviews from riders just like yourself. You can click the info button on your desktop or mobile device. You can read other rider reviews, or you can reach out to one of our customer service reps. You can shoot them an email, give them a call, and they can walk you through all the different helmet options available to match with your riding style as well as your budget. I want to thank you for joining us for this look at the Schuberth E2 Modular Adventure Helmet. I'm Spurge. Enjoy the ride.